Welcome to the Board Business Channel. All right, so get this. We're diving into TSMC today. And they're kind of like, I don't know, the rock stars of tech.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like everyone wants to work with them. They're in such high demand. And it's all about these tiny little things called chips, the things that make our phones and computers actually, think.
Oh, absolutely. TSMC is the world's biggest contract chip maker. They're the ones making the brains for practically everything.
It's crazy, right? Like this one company is behind so much of the technology we use, every single day. I mean, they're even in cars now.
It's true. It really is. And here's the thing. Get this. They don't even design the chips themselves.
Really?
Yeah. Companies like, Apple or Qualcomm come up with the designs, and then TSMC just, manufactures them. It's this whole pure play foundry model.
Okay, wait, hold on. So they're a specialized factory just for chips? They're the experts in making them, but they don't come up with the blueprints.
Exactly. Think of it like, those Michelin star restaurants, the ones with those crazy complicated dishes?
Oh, yeah.
TSMC's like the kitchen that can make anything, but they're using recipes from other chefs. They don't get all the fame, but they're crucial to making it all happen.
Okay, I get it. So it's they're the master chefs of the chip world.
Exactly. But instead of food, they're working with these teeny tiny transistors packed onto a chip the size of your fingernail. And we're talking billions of these things.
Billions? Oh, come on. No way. Seriously. How is that even possible? Is it magic? Are there tiny little robots involved? Spill the secret.
Okay. It's not magic, but it's pretty close. It's called photolithography, and it uses light to, etch these intricate patterns onto silicon wafers.
Etch?
Yeah. Imagine you're developing a photograph, but on an atomic scale. It's insanely precise.
So are they basically printing chips, with the super high-tech printer? My brain is trying to, picture this.
Yeah. It's a lot more complex than printing, but you're getting the idea. And the crazy thing is, they're always pushing the limits, making chips smaller and more powerful every year.
Which is why our phones can do more than, an entire room full of computers from back in the day, right?
Exactly.
It's mind-blowing. Okay, so TSMC is basically driving all this crazy innovation in AI, 5G, self-driving cars, everything.
They are a major force, absolutely.
So they must be making, a gazillion dollars.
They're definitely successful, that's for sure. And it all started with this one guy, Morris Chang.
Oh, story time.
Yeah.
Was he a young tech whiz, coding in his parents' basement?
Not quite. Morris was actually already in his 50s when he started TSMC.
No way.
Yeah, back in 1987. He was already a big deal in the industry, but he saw this gap in the market.
Hold on, wait. So he wasn't some fresh out of college kid?
Nope. He had a whole career behind him.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So what made him decide to start a company at that age?
Well, back then, chip companies usually designed and made their own products. It was a really expensive way to do things, and it kind of limited how much new stuff they could come up with.
Okay, so he saw an opportunity.
Yeah, he was like, what if we just focus on making the chips really, really well? And that's exactly what he did.
So he was like, hey, you geniuses, come up with the designs, and I'll handle making them a reality. Genius.
It was, and it totally changed the game. Companies like Apple could put all their energy into design knowing that TSMC could handle making the chips.
Win-win.
Yeah.
This Morris guy sounds like a total legend. But didn't I read something about him having some strong opinions about work-life balance?
Oh, yeah, he wasn't exactly known for taking long vacations.
What, really?
Yeah, he once said something like, if you don't have work, you don't have life.
Whoa. Talk about dedication.
Uh-huh.
But I guess to build a company like TSMC, you got to be a little obsessed.
You definitely need a certain drive, that's for sure. And it seems like that work ethic kind of became part of the company culture at TSMC.
Well, I guess that's how you become the best, right? But hey, haven't they been expanding? I thought they were building this huge factory in Arizona. Maybe those engineers will get some more sunshine now.
That's right. TSMC's expansion into Arizona is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I bet. Why is everyone making such a fuss about it?
Well, it's not just business. It's about, global politics and who's leading the way in technology.
Ooh, juicy. So TSMC is like the VIP guest everyone wants at their party.
Exactly. Governments all over are trying to get TSMC to build factories in their countries, offering them all sorts of deals. It's pretty intense.
Wow, so this is way more than just making computer chips. It's like international intrigue.
Yeah.
So TSMC is shaping the future of technology and global power dynamics, all from those tiny little chips.
It's wild, right?
Right.
And they're facing some serious challenges, too.
Like what?
Well, for starters, the competition's getting tougher. And on top of that, the manufacturing process is insanely complex.
Yeah, we were talking about those billions of transistors earlier.
Exactly. And as the chips get smaller, it gets even harder to make them.
Smaller. But how much smaller can they even get?
It's mind-boggling. They're using things like extreme ultraviolet lithography.
Extreme what?
It uses a special kind of light to etch even tinier patterns onto the silicon. It's like, I don't know, writing a whole book on the head of a pin.
Okay, you lost me. But I'm guessing it's not cheap, right?
Oh, no, not at all. These chip-making factories cost billions to build.
Billions. Yikes. So TSMC is playing a high-stakes game, not just with technology, but with, like, money, too.
For sure. And the competition's heating up.
Yeah.
Other companies are catching up, and even some of TSMC's own customers are starting to build their own factories.
Wait, what? Their own customers are becoming rivals.
Yeah.
Talk about a plot twist. Why would they do that? I thought everyone loved TSMC's chip-making skills.
Well, some companies, like Apple or Google, want more control over their supply chain. Plus, they're looking for ways to make chips that are specifically for their own products.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like TSMC taught everyone how to make chips, and now the students are graduating and starting their own businesses.
It's a good analogy. And then you throw in all the political stuff going on.
Oh, right. The whole China and Taiwan thing.
Exactly. It adds a whole other layer of complication for TSMC.
They're stuck in the middle of a geopolitical tug of war.
Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act.
So it's not just about technology and business. It's about global politics, too. Man, that's a lot of pressure.
It really is. And on top of all that, there's a global chip shortage happening right now.
A shortage?
Yeah.
But how? TSMC is the biggest chip maker out there. Are they just, like, running out of silicon or something?
Not exactly. But the pandemic and problems with getting things shipped around the world and everyone wanting more and more chips, it's all added up. And TSMC is trying to make enough to keep up, but it's tough.
So they're basically trying to bake a gazillion cookies with only one oven. Sounds like they need a bigger kitchen.
Yeah, something like that. They're definitely putting a lot of effort into making more chips and coming up with new ways to do things. Yeah, they're really trying to keep up with the demand, but it's a huge undertaking.
For sure. Okay, so TSMC is this global giant making the tiny brains that power, like, everything. But what about the company itself? What's it like to actually work there? Are we talking like all-nighters and, engineers living on pizza and energy drinks?
Well, imagine like a place where the smartest people in tech come together to like push the boundaries of what's even possible.
Oh, sounds intense.
It is. TSMC is famous for having this really strong engineering culture. Like everyone's super dedicated to being the best and always innovating.
So like a boot camp for tech geniuses.
Kinda, but I'm sure they have good coffee, right?
Yeah. Got a few of those brains somehow. But seriously, working there must be pretty demanding. I mean, you're working on technology that's literally shaping the future, that's going to be in the hands of millions of people.
It's a lot of pressure for sure, but it's also incredibly exciting to be at the forefront of innovation like that.
I bet. But remember that whole thing about work-life balance?
Yeah.
Has TSMC gotten with the times, or are they still, all work and no play?
It seems like they are making an effort to, like, adapt to how things are changing, especially with younger generations. They've got programs to promote work-life balance, things like flexible work schedules and even well-being programs.
Oh, that's good to hear. Everyone needs a break sometimes, right? Even tech geniuses. But working at TSMC must be pretty exhilarating, like you're literally at the cutting edge.
Right. Imagine working on projects that could like revolutionize healthcare or transportation or communication. The possibilities are endless.
That's wild. It's no wonder they attract some of the brightest minds out there.
Exactly, and it's not just attracting talent, they're creating it too.
How so?
Remember we talked about that pure play foundry model? Well, it also meant that other companies could just pop up and focus on chip design without having to spend billions building factories.
Yeah.
So it was like they opened the floodgates for innovation.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, all of a sudden smaller companies with great ideas could compete with the big guys.
So TSMC is like the fairy godmother of the chip world?
Yeah.
Granting wishes for all these startups.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, but even fairy godmothers have their limits, right? What are some of the challenges TSMC is facing?
Well, one of the biggest is just the sheer complexity of their manufacturing process, those billions of transistors we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
As chips get smaller and more powerful, it gets exponentially more difficult to make them.
Okay, wait, how are they making them smaller? I thought we were already talking about things on an atomic scale. How much smaller can they go?
It's mind-boggling, right? They're using these cutting-edge technologies like extreme ultraviolet lithography.
Extreme what now?
It uses light with these incredibly short wavelengths to, like, etch even finer patterns onto the silicon.
So basically they're using like lasers to draw on atoms.
Kind of. It's insanely precise.
I bet it costs a fortune.
It does. Building and running one of these chip-making factories costs billions of dollars.
Whoa. Billions.
Yeah. And the risks are high, too.
So this isn't just a tech game anymore. It's like global economics.
Exactly. And the competition isn't getting any easier. Other foundries are catching up, and some of TSMC's own customers are starting to build their own factories.
Wait, what? Their customers are turning into competitors. Talk about a betrayal.
Well, companies like Apple and Google want more control over their supply chains, and they want to be able to customize their chips for their specific products.
So TSMC is kind of like the parent who taught their kid how to ride a bike, and now the kid's off racing in the Tour de France.
Huh. It's a good analogy.
But seriously, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow.
It's definitely a sign of how competitive things are getting, and then there's the whole geopolitical thing to consider. Remember the tension between China and Taiwan?
Oh, right.
Well, that adds another layer of complexity to TSMC's operations.
So they're kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act.
It sounds like TSMC's in a pretty tough spot facing all these challenges.
They are, but they also have this incredible track record of innovation and resilience.
So they're like the comeback kids of the tech world?
Huh, you could say that.
They've got their work cut out for them, but I have a feeling they're going to find a way to come out on top.
It'll be interesting to see how they navigate all of this and what their next move is.
Totally.
Ah.
Okay, so we've talked about TSMC's global impact and all the challenges they're facing, but let's zoom in a little on the people, those engineers who are like the backbone of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Do they ever get a break? Or are they just like permanently attached to their computers?
Well, the semiconductor industry is definitely demanding. There's no doubt about that. But it seems like TSMC is really starting to recognize the importance of, employee well-being.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Even chip-making geniuses need to sleep once in a while, right?
Right. They've implemented programs to encourage work-life balance things like flexible work schedules, on-site childcare, even fitness centers.
Ooh, fancy. So they're trying to create an environment where people can, like, thrive both at work and in their personal lives.
Oh, exactly. They're realizing that happy and healthy employees are more productive and innovative.
Makes sense. You can't run on fumes forever, right?
Exactly. And TSMC is starting to understand that they're investing in things like mental health resources and family-friendly policies.
Now,
they're recognizing that to be successful, they need to take care of their people.
I like that. So it's not just about chips. It's about the people making those chips.
Absolutely.
Okay. But let's be real. Working at TSMC must still be pretty exciting. You're literally on the cutting edge of innovation. It's got to be like working for, I don't know, NASA or something.
Right. I can only imagine the thrill of working on those cutting-edge projects, knowing that your work is going to impact millions, if not billions, of people around the world.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But, we were talking earlier about Morris Chang and his, no work, no life philosophy. I wonder if that's still the vibe at TSMC, or are younger employees kind of pushing back against that?
It seems like there's definitely a shift happening. Younger generations are really prioritizing work-life balance, and companies are having to adapt.
Yeah, they can't just expect people to work 24/7 anymore.
Right. They're realizing that to attract and retain top talent, they need to offer more than just a paycheck. They need to create a culture that supports employees and allows them to have a life outside of work.
So it's like a whole new era for work culture. It's not just about grinding it out anymore. It's about finding that balance.
Exactly. And TSMC seems to be embracing that change.
Good for them.
Okay.
Okay, so we've talked about the people, but what about the planet? Is TSMC doing anything to, be more environmentally friendly? Are they, recycling their silicon wafers or something?
That's a great question, and it's an important one. As a company operating on such a massive scale, TSMC has a responsibility to minimize their environmental impact, and it seems like they're taking that responsibility seriously.
Okay, good. I was a little worried they were just, dumping toxic waste into the ocean or something.
No, they're not. They've implemented a number of initiatives to reduce their carbon footprint, conserve water, and promote sustainability.
Like what? Spilled deep?
Well, for example, they're investing in renewable energy sources like solar and wind power. They're also implementing energy-efficient technologies in their factories and working to reduce their water consumption.
So they're basically trying to be good global citizens while also making those tiny brains that power our world.
Exactly.
I'm impressed.
It's a balancing act for sure, but it's one that's becoming increasingly important for companies of all sizes. Consumers are demanding sustainability, and investors are looking for companies that are committed to environmental responsibility.
Right. Nobody wants to buy a phone that's powered by pollution.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. TSMC's technology, their global impact, their work culture, and their environmental initiatives. Is there anything else we're missing? Any juicy secrets or scandals? Come on, spill the tea.
Huh. I wish I had some juicy gossip, but I don't, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
But I do think it's worth noting that TSMC, like any company, has faced its share of criticisms and controversies.
Oh, like what?
Well, there have been concerns raised about their labor practices in the past, especially in some of their overseas factories.
Okay, that's not good. What kind of concerns?
There have been allegations of things like excessive overtime, unsafe working conditions, and not enough protection for workers.
Yikes. That's definitely something they need to address. Have they made any changes?
It seems like they've implemented new policies to limit overtime and provide better safety training. They've also partnered with labor rights organizations to monitor their factories and make sure they're meeting international standards.
Okay, that's good to hear. It's important that they treat their workers fairly wherever they are in the world.
Absolutely. And it's something that consumers are paying more attention to these days. People want to know that the products they're buying are made ethically and responsibly.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about the people and the planet, but let's get back to those chips for a minute. We talked about how TSMC is making them smaller and smaller, but is there like a limit? How small can they actually go?
That's a great question, and it's one that scientists and engineers are grappling with right now. There are physical limits to how much you can miniaturize things, and we're getting pretty close.
Okay, so what happens when we hit that limit? Does everything just, like, stop? Do we all have to go back to using flip phones and dial-up internet?
Huh. I don't think we'll be going back to the Stone Age anytime soon, but we are entering a new era of innovation, one where it's not just about making things smaller, but about making them smarter, more efficient, more sustainable.
So it's like a whole new challenge.
It is, and it's one that TSMC is embracing. They're investing heavily in research and development, exploring new materials, new architectures, new manufacturing techniques.
So they're not afraid of a little challenge.
Not at all. They're determined to stay ahead of the curve.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
You know, it's interesting. We've been talking about TSMC as this global powerhouse, but they're also like a symbol of Taiwan's technological prowess, right?
Yeah.
They put this small island on the map.
Absolutely. Taiwan's become a major player in the global semiconductor industry, and TSMC is a huge part of that. They've created jobs, boosted the economy, fostered a culture of innovation.
So it's like a source of national pride. Like, hey, we're this tiny island, but we make the brains that power the world.
Exactly. And that pride is evident in how people view TSMC, both in Taiwan and internationally.
That's awesome. So it sounds like TSMC is more than just a company. They're like a symbol of Taiwan's success.
They are, and they're also a fascinating case study in the intersection of technology, business, and geopolitics.
Right. We've been talking about all those things today.
Their story is a testament to the power of innovation, the importance of global collaboration, and all the challenges and opportunities that come with being a leader in such a rapidly evolving industry.
It's like we're watching this epic tech thriller unfold in real time.
Huh. It's definitely a captivating story.
Okay, so we've talked about TSMC's technology, their global impact, their work culture, their environmental initiatives, and even their role in Taiwanese society. But I'm curious about something else. Do they have any, like, super secret projects going on? Are they working on a time machine or something?
Ah, a time machine. I don't know about that, but they are involved in some pretty cutting-edge research and development.
Ooh, like what? Give me the scoop.
Well, for example, they're exploring things like quantum computing, neuromorphic chips, and even chips that could be implanted in the human body.
Wait, hold on. Implanted chips? Like in our brains? Are they trying to turn us into cyborgs or something?
Ah, not quite. The research on implantable chips is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to revolutionize healthcare.
Oh, really? Like how?
Well, some researchers believe that these chips could be used to treat neurological disorders like Parkinson's disease or epilepsy. They could also be used to monitor vital signs, deliver medication, or even provide sensory feedback for people with disabilities.
Wow, that's incredible. So TSMC is not just making chips for our phones and computers. They're also developing technology that could actually save lives and improve people's health.
It's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah. It's like they're not just a tech company. They're like a healthcare company, too.
In a way, yes. And it really shows their commitment to innovation and their desire to use technology for good.
Okay, I officially love TSMC. Now they're like the superheroes of the tech world.
Huh. Well, they're definitely a company with a lot of potential to make a positive impact.
I agree. So what's the one big takeaway from all of this? What should people remember about TSMC?
I think the main thing is that TSMC is a company that's constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. They're not afraid to take risks, to innovate, to challenge the status quo, and they're doing it all in this incredibly complex global environment.
They're like those explorers who set sail into uncharted waters, not knowing what they'll find, but determined to discover something new.
Huh. It's a good analogy.
And their story is really inspiring. It shows that even in a world that's changing so fast and where the competition is so fierce, you still achieve amazing things if you have a vision. Yeah. You're determined, and you're committed to excellence.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. TSMC's history, their technology, their impact on the world, their work culture, their commitment to sustainability, their role in Taiwanese society, even their cutting-edge research and those crazy implantable chips. What else is there to talk about? Do they have a company theme song? Secret handshake?
Yeah.
A stash of silicon wafer-shaped cookies?
You're full of questions today. I'm not sure about the cookies, but I'm willing to bet they have a pretty amazing company culture.
Right. It's got to be fun to work at a place that's literally making the future.
Yeah.
But hey, enough about the fun stuff. Let's get back to business for a sec. What's your biggest takeaway from all this? What really stood out to you about TSMC?
Honestly, I'm just blown away by their ambition and their drive to be the best. They're never satisfied. They're always pushing themselves further, always looking for new challenges to conquer.
They're like the rock climbers of the tech world, always reaching for the next peak. Okay, I'm getting all inspired again. But hey, we got to wrap things up. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
I think TSMC's story is a great example of how innovation, collaboration, and a commitment to excellence can lead to extraordinary things, even in a world that's full of challenges and uncertainty.
Right. It's like they're proving that nothing is impossible if you have the courage to dream big and the determination to make those dreams a reality. I'm feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. But hey, before we go, I got to give a shout out to my buddy Steve, the executive director of the Arizona Taiwan office. He's been working so hard to strengthen the relationship between Arizona and Taiwan, and I'm sure he's super excited about TSMC's new factory in the desert.
I'm sure he is. It's a great accomplishment for him and a sign of the strong partnership between Arizona and Taiwan.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the world of TSMC.
It's been a pleasure.
And that's it for the Board Business Channel. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future deep dives.